In this video, I'm going to discuss internal and external validity in quantitative designs. A big concern that we have with quantitative research designs, and really research designs in general, is how valid they are. That is, how can we be confident that the researcher's conclusions are correct? In quantitative research, the researcher will make claims that changes in the dependent variable results in changes to the independent variable. And we want to ask, did this treatment really cause the outcome to occur? Is it possible that other confounding variables caused this outcome? A research design has high internal validity when we can say with fair certainty that the influence of the independent variable on the dependent variable has been isolated well. Now, external validity is a different concern. Here, we're asking whether or not the researcher's findings are unique to this particular study, situation, or sample. That is, can we generalize these results across populations, across time, or across settings? Qualitative research has similar concerns regarding the accuracy of research, but you'll find that we use slightly different concepts and terminology to approach the issue. And this is because in qualitative research, we are most concerned with presenting a detailed account that is accurate for the particular situation or people under study. Although the qualitative researcher hopes to discover patterns that may transfer elsewhere, they're not going to make the argument that the patterns they see in their study will definitely apply to everyone in the population of interest or to other places and contexts. In general, it's best not to use the terms internal and external validity when discussing most qualitative work because the standards for good evidence in qualitative work are somewhat different and the purpose is different. In qualitative work, the onus is on the consumer to decide whether or not the findings will transfer effectively to a new context. And in that situation, the qualitative researcher should then try to provide as much detail as possible and illustrate that they have taken steps to verify their findings, say by asking the participants for verification. This leads to trustworthy findings, but uses slightly different reasoning than we are going to use to discuss quantitative research quality. In quantitative research, there is a trade-off between internal and external validity. This means that different designs have different strengths. You can think about it this way. Research designs that have a great deal of researcher control are really good at isolating causal factors. So in a tightly controlled experimental design, the researcher can decide a great deal about the laboratory, the equipment. They can carefully select who participates and exactly under what circumstances. But of course, the laboratory setting is very contrived, and in the real world, education takes place in busy environments. So, tightly controlled designs such as the true experiment have excellent internal validity, but often poor external validity. More descriptive or observational studies, correlational and survey research may have greater external validity. A huge survey with many participants may allow the researcher to employ various methods, especially good sampling practices, to make their sample representative of the population. So the survey researcher might say, okay, I can't be quite so sure that I know that taking part in this program definitely caused the outcomes I'm interested in, but the external validity we gain by asking so many people about their experiences is worth the trade-off. There are some procedures that a quantitative researcher can use to increase the internal validity of their study. And these involve random assignment, using replicable procedures to ensure that conditions that are being compared are as similar as possible between groups, except for, of course, the intervention or the treatment of interest. And they can also control for potential confounds. They will measure as many variables as they can that they think are relevant to the present situation, and try to use statistical methods to estimate how much influence those other variables have so that they can isolate the influence of the independent variables of interest. Researchers can also take steps to increase the external validity of a study. Random selection is one very good way to do this. So they can attempt to give every individual in a population an equal chance of being selected for the study, such that there is not systematic bias against certain types of people or people with particular characteristics. They can also use procedures that encourage as many participants as possible to, for example, fill out a survey. So if you see in a survey design that the response rate is low, then you may question whether or not the results will generalize, because there may be something special about the people who did not feel that participating was for them. Those people may be different from the people who decided to respond. It's an excellent practice as a consumer to examine the demographic information obtained about the participants and to look at who the researchers claim their findings will apply to. It may be reasonable to take the results of a survey of university students and say, my findings will generalize to other university students. But it may not be as reasonable to claim that the same findings will definitely apply in a different context, such as the workplace or in K-12 education. A high-quality research report will discuss the limitations of a study in terms of both external and internal validity. So take care as you read the discussion to look for clues that the researchers were mindful of these concerns. They may discuss variables that were not controlled effectively or could not have been controlled. They may discuss the limitations of the sampling and grouping methods that they used. They may also discuss the demographics of their sample. I hope that this little introduction to validity has been helpful to you, and I'll see you in class.